I decided to say the chapter every day, 30 days. And after a few days, maybe 10 days, I remember the whole chapter. And it's very surprised me because it's very long with a lot of complicated words. I never remember things. All my life I cheated in the history exam. And because I was surprised, I decided to focus in the words that I'm saying and not just keep saying that. And then I realized that the chapter is not related to medicine, it's related to war and God saved me from the enemies. And in Hebrew, even the word Hamas appeared there. And I just asked myself from which war I prayed to be saved. But I say, okay, it's the first time that I pray in my life. I don't understand prayers. On October 7, we decided to go to Kibbutz Nir Oz to celebrate our holiday, Simchat Torah, with his parents. They lived there. And in that weekend, Sasha didn't want to go. It's very surprising because all the time you say, Sapir, if I promise to my parents that I come, I never cancel, it may hurt my mother. And also it was the last day of the pool, so I wanted to go. Unfortunately, I convinced him, and we arrived to the kibbutz in South Israel. I remember that we came there on Friday, and we watched a movie about kidnapping and murder. And one of his friends say, I'm so scared, I don't want to watch that. We didn't think that the day after we will experience it, even in the worst case. On Saturday, we woke up at 6 in the morning because we heard the rockets. It was like a rain of rockets, very, very strong. We were in a guest room with no shelter, and we couldn't find even a few seconds to run to his parents' house to enter to the shelter. And I asked him, Sasha, what we're supposed to do now? Because I'm from the North Israel, I'm not used to alarms. And he told me maybe it's better to lie down near the wall because it's more safe. And this is what we did. We just lie down and we stay like in this position for an hour of rockets with no stop. After an hour, we got a message from his mother that terrorists came inside the kibbutz. I wasn't sure what the meaning of terrorists came inside, but then I heard Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. I heard screams. And I remember that we had an argument, and Sasha told me it's the army. They came to help us, and I'm saying, no, I heard Arabic. I was sure that terrorists came inside, and I heard like hundreds of terrorists came and shoot. Well, just go home by home and shooting, and I heard come close and close to us. In that moment, I decided to cover myself with a blanket, and we decided to hide under the bed because it's a very small place. There is no place to hide. I was terrified. I was shaking, like all my body was wet. And I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe to send a message to my parents, maybe to say something to Sasha. But I didn't want to say something with the meaning of goodbye. I wanted to stay alive. In that moment, I decided to say my prayer. And I said that again and again and again. And when I say that, I felt a little bit peace inside of me. I wasn't sure, like, I didn't know how can I feel a little bit peace in this situation. Finally, they came to our house and they showed the door. They came inside, they just took everything and broke everything in this room. I just heard a very high level of noise. and they took me from the blankets. I remember that I saw in front of my eyes maybe 10 terrorists. I was in shock. At first I thought maybe it's soldiers, our soldiers, but then I saw that they're very violent and speak in Hebrew and screams. The October 7 was the day number 13, the last day that I'm supposed to say my prayer. And I wanted to believe that God sent me this prayer for that moment.
Sasha, what do you remember from the day that you were abducted? When we found cover near the wall and we lay there, I remember thinking to myself, well, it's one of those times that rockets are fired. I am from the south. I grew up in the kibbutz all my life, and I was born in Russia, but we moved to Israel when I was pretty young. And all my life was in this kibbutz. My friends, I was raised there, educated there. And it wasn't the first time, unfortunately, that those things happened. So this was so calm. And I told Sapir, it's okay, it will stop. We just need to wait it out. And it didn't stop. It went on and on. And then she said we couldn't find any moment of spare to run to my parents' house. They had a safe room. We didn't. We were in a room 16 feet on 16 feet, very small. And we just lay there, and I thought to myself, well, it's uh, not usual. This is happening for so long, but it probably will stop soon. And I started getting messages from my friends, saw what happening in the news, and they started messaging me, is everything okay? Is everything is fine? And I told them, yeah, everything is okay. We are in a safe place. Everything is good. A woman from the army actually called me, thinking maybe to see what is going on with me. I told her, yeah, everything is fine. They said, okay, okay. And then my friend sent me a message. He said there are terrorists in the kibbutz nearby, kibbutz Be'eri, and then after he said there is terrorists in the kibbutz itself. He was, which is responsible to guard the kibbutz in these kind of situations, but he wasn't in the kibbutz at that time, but everything was in WhatsApp, so he knew what is happening. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is a different situation, but maybe there is like a group of terrorists, maybe 10, 8, no more. And my mother, after a while, sent me a text message that says, the terrorist went in front of our house. Her house was My parents' house was very, very close to the room we were staying at, to this guest room. So I knew they were pretty close. And a little bit before that, even we started hearing screams, shootings, and everything. And as Sapir said, we had an argument if it's the army or is it the terrorists. I couldn't believe that it's the terrorists, and there are so many of them, and they are doing such a mayhem in the kibbutz. I just couldn't understand it in my head. So I really believed it's the army fighting with them. The voices came closer and closer to our door, and eventually they started trying to break the door open. The doors in the kibbutz are very weak. They are not built to withstand any burglary or something like that. I knew eventually they will get in, but at first they didn't. They didn't manage to break the door, and after a few minutes they left. And I thought to myself, wow, we are so lucky. I was so stressed out, in such a panic, in such a shock. But unfortunately, they came after a minute or two, shut the lock open, and I remember when she was covered in blankets, I looked. The terrorist one walks inside the room. He found us very quickly. As I said, the room was very small. And he took us under the place we were, under the bed, near the wall. A gun pointed at me, starting shouting things at me in Arabic. I raised my hands, telling in English that we are civilians, leave us alone, we are innocents. He didn't seem to understand or takes any interest in that, so I understand immediately that it's not going to work. He called a bunch of other terrorists that were waiting outside. So a group of 8 more terrorists or 9 more terrorists came. And now more guns are pointing at me, and they're starting shouting things and being agitated and angry. I tried to convince them to bring her clothes because we weren't wearing much. We were asleep before, and she was wearing a nightie, like a small pajama. And I was very afraid of them to see her this way or to take her this way. And they threw at me my pants or jeans, told me, wear it, get down on the floor, with hand gestures. So I did. And I still tried to convince them, give her clothes in English. Eventually, one of the terrorists said that it's taking too long. So he punched me in the face. And in that moment, I understand that it's not going to a very good place. If we're not going to get up and leave, we're going to die there. So I stood up. We went out of the room. Sapir was in front of me. And on the exit of the room, on the door, I was stabbed in the shoulder from the back by one terrorist without any reason. I looked back, shocked, because I thought it's a punch, but it felt very concentrated and very strong. I couldn't understand what is that. I'd never been stabbed before. So I look back and I see a terrorist with a knife, with a angry face, and he's like, and one other terrorist is holding his hand to not stab me even more. And after that, they took my head down. Before I could see anything, I just remember Sapir will take her a little bit to the right. I was marched 50 meters ahead towards the motorcycle. I couldn't see much, but in my head, a sheer sense of panic, stress. I didn't understand what is going on. My mind is racing, but on nothing. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't understand what is going on. I just thought about how I can get myself and Sapir out of the situation. How can we get out of it? And I was so afraid. I remember that I decided to do something pretty stupid, observing it now, but I decided to shoot myself from the terrorists, to shake myself from them, and run to the opposite direction that I saw Sapir was taking to. I thought that by this way they will run after me, will leave Sapir, and she will be able to escape and join the army forces that I thought are present in that day. So I did. I showed myself from the group of terrorists that was holding me, and immediately when I lifted my head up and started running, I saw that the situation is far worse than I thought. A lot of terrorists in front of my eye, destroying porches, lighting things on fire, porches and trees and everything. And I ran maybe 50 meters, maybe a little bit more, maybe between a 50 and 100 meters. I got stopped by 2 other armed terrorists in front of me. So I'm cornered. The terrorists that I shoot myself from, this group, were shooting at me while I was running, but they didn't hit me at that point. They came closer to me running. I lift my hands up, running towards them, and they things in Arabic, and from half a meter away shot both of my legs. Fortunately, the bullet in my right leg pierced only the flesh and the muscle, so it didn't hit the bone. It was painful, but not that much. Unfortunately, on my left leg, the bullet pierced the bone completely, and because I was standing, it broke the leg completely, bent it, and I fell to the ground. After that, I was struck by a rifle, by the back of the rifle in the back of my head on the left side, and they tied my hands behind my back, tried to tie something around my legs, but it wasn't doing anything. They tried to tell me, get up on your feet with their hand, but I couldn't. I tried. So they needed to lift me up and put me on a motorcycle. All of this happened in front of my parents' house. And a little bit before, I got a little bit blacked out because everything that happened to me. I remember I saw terrorists on the porch, and I knew that they will get inside eventually. And so they did. On the way to Gaza, I drove through the kibbutz on the motorcycle. They covered my head with something, so I couldn't see, but unfortunately I could. And I saw so many houses of people I knew. Some of them, most of them are dead. They are being burned down, smoke coming out, already destroying things in the kibbutz, running around, cars, motorcycles, everything, mayhem, complete mayhem. And when I got to the border, we fell from the bike, and I don't remember seeing much because I was in such a pain, but I remember the voices of a lot of citizens. Later I knew they were citizens. In that moment, I thought they were only people. I didn't understand what is going on. Starting gathering around me, starting things, and then I felt punches, kicks, everything. And I thought to myself in the head, "This is the place I'm gonna die." And I felt really peaceful with the fact that it doesn't hurt anymore because I was in such pain that nothing could hurt me anymore. But eventually, the terrorists separated from this group of people and took me to a vehicle and drove me to Gaza.
Sapir, what did you see on the way to Gaza when you were taken? Did you realize that other people had been kidnapped as well?
I remember that they took me outside of the room and they put me on a bike with two terrorists, one in front and one behind. And we started the way to Gaza. If you saw a part of this video, it's a woman on a bike inside Gaza, so it's me. And I remember that in the middle of the way, they stopped driving, and the terrorist behind me, he wanted me, like he wanted to take me from the bike. And I looked around myself, and I was like in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't understand why he wanted to take me there. I was very scared in that moment. I I had just a little dress, and he was very violent, and he had a gun, and I didn't know how can I protect myself. I decided in that moment to hug the terrorist in front of me. I just hugged him tightly, and I wanted to give him a sense of responsibility. Like he was the older one. He could be my father. And I'm saying, I'm a kid. And he told me, I know, shut up. But then he turned around to the other terrorists and he said, Halas, no, no, no. And they had an argument, but finally they decided to continue the way to Gaza. So in that moment, I say, for God that I'm continue in my way. And I remember that when I came inside Gaza, I saw like thousands of people. I saw like all the street was full of civilians, and they all come to touch me and to beat me very strong. And I just put the hands on my head and I pray to God. In that moment, the terrorists they decided to take me alive. So they just take me from the civilians. They didn't want them to kill me. I I thought that I'm the only hostage. I didn't know what happened in that day. I was in shock. I had blackout, and I didn't even know that Sasha kidnapped. I didn't know what happened to him. Just when I came to the first house, I realized that I'm not the only hostage.
So as you're in Gaza, there, what was going through your mind, and how did you get through? Like, what were you telling yourself, and how did you manage to get through that night?
I remember the first days in the captivity. I just say, God, why it's happened to me? Why you did it to me? And I had many thoughts in my mind. Why I didn't, why I convinced Sasha to go to the kibbutz. He didn't want to go there. Why I didn't listen to him? And maybe if I would hide in a different place, maybe if I would run to the pool and dive under, it wouldn't happen to me. And if, and if, and if. And all these thoughts, I felt that it's explode my mind. And then I say to myself that I have to think in a different way. I believe in God, even that I never prayed in my life, I believe in God. And I just say to myself that if God decided to send me to this place, it's because I'm supposed to be there. And I don't believe in bad luck or in good luck, in nothing is random in my life. And the question is why? Why I'm supposed to be there? I remember that when I was under the bed, when I hid under the bed, and I was sure that this is my last time of my life, I say, God, I just want one last thing. I want last chance to do something. I want last chance to do something meaningful in my life. I was so sorry that I didn't do something like that. And when I was in the captivity, I saw another hostage, a young girl, 16 years old, and she was terrified, so scared, and she's crying all the time. And I saw another hostage, a man that just lie down all the day and close his eyes. And I'm saying, please open your eyes. And he told me, Sapir, I can't because I don't want to see my new reality. I just can't see that. And I remember that it was very hard moments, but I also felt that God sent me to a place that I can be a good person if this is what I want. And I decided that this is my mission, that I want to focus in the people around me and not to focus in myself. And from that moment that I decided to take this responsibility, I just felt a different person. I felt very powerful and I had confidence. I remember that maybe 2 weeks we were in the same room with 4 terrorists and we just lived in this room, we sleep together and eat together. And I had confidence and I was saying like, I used all my life to be scared from things, and 6 months before I had anxiety all the time. And sometimes I could take even bad moment and make it a fun moment. I remember that one day one of the terrorists came to us and he say, now I take you to the tunnels. And this girl, she came to me and she said, Sapir, I'm so scared. I don't want to go there. So I told her, you know, we are in Gaza. And we have to see the number one attraction here is the tunnels. So we go to the tunnels.
Number one attraction.
So I say, wow, it's so wonderful. And then the terrorist asked me, why are you so happy? And I told him, I'm visiting Gaza, why not? So she told me, Sapir, you are so crazy, you have to stop. And then I remember that we arrived to the first tunnel, and it's really dark place. Like it's very hard to breathe there, and everything wet, all the floor, all the walls. the mattress wet, everything moldy, and the smelling, wow, so smelly. And you have many bed bugs and lice and few food. I wasn't sure that one day I will come back to Israel, and I didn't know if I would stay alive. But after some times, I just was like, I had a little bit peace that I felt that I do something meaningful. So I felt that I'm proud of myself, and it gave me a little bit peace.
Sasha, this question is for you. None of us here sitting in the room can truly imagine what you and the other hostages been through and what the hostages need to be through. You here understand what it was like in Gaza, being surrounded by so much suffering, pain, and indescribable. Can you try to describe that to us?
Well, I think one of the hardest things is also the fact that it was bugging me. At first, they took me to a house, although I thought that I'm going to go to an hospital, but they decided to take me to a house. They bandaged my wounds, wrapped two sticks and like a bandage in my left leg to stop it from moving around. And then they took me from this house to another house. In this house, in this new house, they cut a piece of grill thing that you put in the oven into shape, bend it, and wrap it around my leg with a bandage. So this is the way I was for a week with my leg on it. It actually, after a while, starts to penetrate towards your skin. And but again, the pain is not the problem. The bigger problem is finding yourself alone without being able to communicate, because at least for the first week, there were nobody from the terrorists that were guarding me, that knew Hebrew, and not knowing what happened to your family, to your girlfriend, to your friends, what happening in Israel, and also not knowing what is going to happen to you. Every single day and during this first week, because they didn't took me to the hospital, I thought, well, this is the day they're going to take a video of me, shoot that I'm alive, and then kill me. But it didn't happen. After a week, they decided that it's not going to work this way, and they moved me to an hospital for a day. In the hospital, there was a doctor. They inserted me into a room. There was a doctor there ready. They took some pictures. He said it's completely broken. But anyway, they decided to put me in a small storage place. And there came a nurse, and he bandaged my leg, like he made a cast on it, put a cast on my leg on top of two cardboard boxes. I was like that with two cardboard boxes. He bandaged my leg with cast, and that's it. After a day, I was moved from this hospital, and something happened. They didn't allow them to bring me back to the place at all, so they needed to put me in a new place, which was a good fortune for me, because at this place, it was the first time and the only time, as I know, a terrorist that was guarding me who knew a little bit of English. And from that terrorist, I started learning Arabic, which was a key thing for me. At this encounter for 40 days, I started to learn what happened in October 7. I started to learn what is happening with the war. And I learned that my mother, my father, my girlfriend, and my grandmother are considered being hostages, as well as some of my friends, at least what I could see from the list he brought me. And with this feeling, I needed to cope day by day, mostly alone. And regarding the food, at the beginning, it was pretty decent, 3 meals a day the first week. At this new place, things started to get a little bit worse because the war prolonged, and it started to be 1 meal a day, and then became less and less to a degree that after less than a month, we were sharing a can of food, me and two other terrorists. And then things started to get problematic. The army started to go closer, so we moved from place to place to place, and I moved through a lot of places. And for that, I also encountered a lot of different terrorists that were guarding me. Every place that I went to, a new group of terrorists were guarding me, which made it even worse and harder because all the connections and the things you did before are not relevant and you need to do them again. And there are new people in front of you. You need to understand what you're doing with that. And it's always a long process to make those connections. And then you move to another place, to another place. Eventually, after a while, June 24th, I got down to the tunnel after the successful rescue mission of some of the hostages, who is called with Salmon, and they took me down to a tunnel. It was the first time I went to a tunnel. It was pretty scary. I got to a house. They told me I was blindfolded. I didn't even see anything. It was moved like that in night. And they told me get inside. And they say where? They say inside the tunnel. And I went there, and it's weird. You get the sensation being underground at first. Like you say, this is the place I'm gonna stay for how long? For a month, 2 months, a year, even more. And I walked like maybe 2 kilometers. I went 30 meters deep towards the place that I was staying at. It was approximately in feet, I don't know, like let's say 6 feet on, no, a little bit more, 10 feet on 16 feet. And this is the place I was staying for almost 9 months, 8.5 months underground. As the first said, at the beginning when you get there, you don't understand what is going on. It's like it's living underground. I don't wish for anyone to experience this kind of thing. It's smelly. The ground is falling on you. A lot of insects and things falling are from the ground. Actually, they become our friends after a while. But yeah, you don't get bugged by cockroaches and anything going crawling at you at night. It's common. And the toilet is very close by, so you smell everything. After a while, you get used to the smell, but it's very smelly at the beginning. It doesn't. There is no hair that's coming out. Nothing to clear the air. And yeah, and the most problematic thing in the tunnel is the fact that when it's dark, it's pitch dark. You put your hand in front of your face, you cannot see anything. There is no source of light. And you're spending more than half of the day in this pitch darkness. It gets to you sometimes. It really does. When you're alone, it's even harder. But this is the things I needed to deal with. And for the 498 days there. And I don't know, people sometimes ask me about showers. Well, I was showering regularly in the regular conditions once every 8 days, 10 days a week. In irregular conditions, once every 2 months. Second. And food is 1 meal a day, depending on the conditions. Sometimes a little bit better, sometimes worse. But you learn not to complain and not to put too much into the material things. And I will talk about it, I hope, later.
Sapir, tell us about the day you were released and when you finally saw your family and what's the feeling again?
I know that after 55 days, the terrorists came to me and they say it's 90% that today you go back. And I didn't believe it because every day they say the same thing. But I saw another terrorist, very influenced one, and I remember that he released the girl that she was with me. He released her 3 days before. So I knew that yes, I go back to my home. I was very excited, and in that time I was with two hostages men. They came to me to say goodbye, and they cried a lot. And I'm saying, why are you crying? So today I go back to Israel. Tomorrow it will be you, or a few days after. But they say, but Sapir, what if not? Well, what if there is something that is more important than us? And they talk a lot about 5 years in the captivity, about Gilad Shalit, that was an hostage for 5 years. And unfortunately, the two of them still there in Gaza. And I came back and I remember the way in Israel that all the people just came to hug the car and scream and say how much they excited to see us, how much they waited. And then I saw my family, I met them in the hospital, and they told me that it's like to get their life back. They didn't know that that I'm alive for maybe for 2 weeks. They didn't know if I'm alive or killed until they saw the video. I remember that I was so happy, but also it was a very big challenge because I felt a different person when I came back. I couldn't wear the same clothes that I had, not the same. It was very hard to me to talk with friends that I had before the October 7. Even with my parents, it took time. And I felt that everyone just tried to take me back to the person that I was. And I felt very confused. So I decided to isolate myself and to know myself again. Also, when I came back, I discovered that his mother stayed alone. She released the day before me, and she doesn't have family. Like her husband killed, and Sasha is the only child. He was in the captivity. Her house burned completely. So she moved to live in a hotel in the center of Israel. I decided to move to the same hotel because I decided to not focus in myself anymore. I decided to be like a family for her. So I moved, and I was sure that it will take maybe 2 months, but it was like 1 year and a half. And sometimes she came to me and she says, Sapir, it's too much for me. I don't want to live anymore. I didn't know what to say. So I just started to promise her grandchildren. And at first it was sweet. Two daughters. I took her to shops for little kids. I showed her some clothes. And after a few months, she came to me again and she says, Sapir, the twins is not enough. It's too much for me. And she was very serious. So at the end, we have 6 kids. One of them optional. I would say maybe I maybe not. And I'm 21.
That's not sure. I said, I may, God willing. Um, so Sasha, this is a Did you ever experience a moment that stood out, a moment of humanity amidst all of the chaos and who you were with? Was there a moment that stood out of humanity?
Well, at first, I thought a lot about why they didn't kill me after during this first week. I asked myself, I was so wounded. I needed to be taken care of. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom by myself. I needed to hop on one leg, but this took like 2 weeks before I could actually hop on it. So they needed to take me to the bathroom and back and all these things. I said to myself, why? And it took me a long time after like being introduced to more and more of those terrorists. I asked them the same question, and they all eventually replied sincerely that I am here to be a negotiation tool to get, as they describe, their brothers out of the prisons in Gaza, in Israel, and to stop this war after a while. And by myself before, by understanding that, I said, well, I have a value, but I also knew that there are 250 other hostages just like me. And I said to myself, although you have value, you're not so valuable. And I started to think to myself what I'm going to do with this, with that, and making connections by talking to them again and again helped me a lot, at least to know what is like going to happen around me, what is the course of the war, and also to benefit a little bit from the conditions because when you make a connection, a personal one, they stop, in a sense, viewing you as distant enemy, Zionist, Israeli, they hate so badly, and start a little bit see war as a human. And for that reason, they sometimes, it's not always happening depending on the person, but sometimes they be a little bit kinder towards you. And one of the things that I thought a lot during the time is that me and Israel and Jews so much. I wanted to understand because always, all the time, even when they were a little bit nicer, these um, these ideas were introduced to me over and over again. There are songs about it. There are, ways of talking about it very sincerely and very openly with me. And I always got to the same conclusion by talking to them and going deeper to the roots of that. I understood that it goes a lot because of the education they are being taught from a very young age in both schools and houses. In the home, they are being taught about history that says that Israel took everything from them, and their grandfather or great grandfather told them that they need to fight to get it back, and they need to do everything. And this kind of organization are encouraged by the family sometimes. They are very proud about it. They told me how much it helps them to get married. They told me how much they get appreciated by that in the society, and that people are taking it very in a high honor to be in these kind of organizations like Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The second thing they told me about the curriculum, about what they're teaching the kids, about they want the kids, their kids, to be also in these kind of organizations and to be participating in the kind of activities. And one example I have is, for example, I was in a one place and one of the guards brought a little girl, this girl, and she was very young, maybe 2.5 years old, something like that. And at first, she was very shy. She didn't approach me. She hid behind her father's leg, and that's it at first encounter. And she just left after a while. The second time I brought her, she felt a little bit more comfortable with me, and when it was close enough, so she got out of her father's leg and hit me on my leg with her hand and ran back towards her father. And her father asked her, "Why did you do so?" So she said something, and I don't understand because at that moment I didn't know Arabic so well. So I asked her father what he said, and he told me something about me being an Israeli, me being a Jew, so she needed to hit me because this is what she needs to do. And he said, it's okay, good, good, but don't hit him, he's okay. And it brought it more and more and more, day after day. And she became more used to me. We played a little bit together. We sometimes interacted in a certain way. And after a while, she felt comfortable staying with me alone when her father wasn't around. He will go to do some things and come back, and she will feel comfortable playing with me, staying with me. And a little bit before I left this place, we were sitting on the floor, me, her father, and her. And she just stood up, approached me, fell on me, gave me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I was surprised. I said, wow, what happened? Just like a month ago, you hit me in the leg. Now you're doing this. But her father was more surprised. He said, like, what are you doing? And she just lifted her head from my chest and smiled at him. So we asked her, what, do you love him? And she just nodded, smiled and nodded at him. And during the time we were there, she was introduced so much hatred toward Israel and Judaism because she was introduced towards what she like. For example, her father gave her a flag of Islamic Jihad to wave inside the house and in chant songs about destroying Israel and destroy the occupation and kill Israelis and Jews and everything like that. More than once. And during this time, although she was indoctrinated with these kind of ideas and education, I was there and I was making a connection with her. And because she was so young, she couldn't differentiate between her personal love towards me, although she knew who I am, and the things that her father told her. And because of that, she felt real love and connection towards me. But unfortunately, I believe that if she will keep growing up in these kind of conditions and in kind of environment, in the end, nothing good can come out of it. And for sure, she will forget the small encounter we had, and she will grow up um, hateful towards us.
Sapir, did you receive at any point any sign of light from Sasha when he was still there?
When I came out, I get a sign of life. First of all, I felt in my heart that he's alive. But after maybe 7 months after I released, Jihad published a video of Sasha. And then I saw him like he seems okay, and it was like a day of celebration for me and for his mother. And he also mentioned me, so he said that he missed me, so I was very excited. And I remember that maybe 3 months before we came back, Jihad published another video of Sasha, and in that video, Sasha didn't mention me. So I talked with his mother about it. And she said, no, no, he forgot to mention you without conviction. He had to say what they tell you to say. And I was saying, I knew that Sasha wants me to continue in my life. Maybe to find another partner and not wait for him. When he came back, I asked him about it, and he said, like this sentence, Sapir, I didn't want you to wait for someone that will never come back. Yeah, so this is the two sides.
After spending, Sasha, this question for you, after spending so much time cut off from the world, so much time alone, like you described, in a small space, in a tunnel, beneath, underground, was there a certain, well, first of all, what gave you the strength to be able to endure such an experience? And was there a pivotal moment that you would describe? Something that was, that transformed within you and your outlook on life?
Well, after the first week, when I get back from the hospital to this new place, I understand that I'm not going to be healed, at least not immediately. But also understand that I'm probably going to be here for a long time. I understand what is going on with the war. I saw that it's not going to a direction that seems like there's going to be a deal pretty soon. And I needed to find a way to cope with all this mental, psychological stress that I had with my parents, my girlfriend, my grandmother, me, friends, my life turned around, I'm in Gaza, everything like that I need to cope with alone. And at the beginning, I didn't know what to do. It was so overwhelming. I was so sad all the time, so depressed. I just wanted to sleep all day, but I just couldn't. I'm not also control of when I'm going to sleep and when I'm waking up. So I tried to start and doing things and focus on things. And at the beginning, I thought a lot about my dear ones. And then decided to start to pray, which is weird because I was secular before. I grew up in a secular community. Kibbutzim is a very secular place, and the connection between religion and I had not connection. And I found myself praying and thinking about them. At the beginning, I didn't know how to do it. I just thought a lot about it. Gave myself moments in the day, during the day, just to think and reflect and hope for the best. And then I started doing it more routinely. And this was like my prayer. And helped me so much to really concentrate every time that I had rough times, challenges. I really thought about trying to give good energy, trying to positively think about my loved ones, about the ones that I care about. And every time that I will do it, it's like recalibrate my compass towards a better way and make me able to cope with the things that I needed to go through. And I needed to go through a lot of hard things. The physical things were so hard. I had sometimes moments of not moments, months without food. Like you have no ability to control anything about your life. Everything is controlled for you. Everything. You have no possession. You have no ability to control what you're gonna eat, how much you're gonna eat, and when you're gonna sleep, how you're gonna sleep, how much you're gonna sleep, how much you're gonna shower, where you're gonna go, if you can go, nothing, nothing, nothing. If your life is gonna be saved or not, everything is controlled by other people. But although all those conditions, I found a lot of peace and calmness and strength by focusing on my mental and spiritual wellness and strength. And it really is something that is no substitution. Sometimes we think that the more we accumulate material things, the more we have, and it gives us a false sense of control and power. But the more you accumulate strength of psychological inner of your soul, this is what really matters in these situations. And I did it by these kind of steps. I also try to think in a good way about what I'm going to do. In days that I didn't have much food, or at least I got something to eat, I said to myself, thank God I have something to eat. And every time that I felt hungry after that, because it was much sometimes, I would say to myself, no, you will not feel hungry, you will not feel this kind of feelings. You will be grateful about what you got and about the ability to see the next day. You will not see things in a negative way. And it's so much effort and work, but in the end it was worth it. Because when I came out eventually, I decided that I want to be much more positive. I will do things for other people because when I was close to death and I faced death, I understood that all the things that I did for myself they're not there. That doesn't matter. I'm gonna die. What imprint did I leave on other people? What did I do towards making this world a little bit better, at least in my point of view? What did I pursue that I found important? And all those questions are marked nothing, nothing, nothing. And I felt so depressed about it. And I told myself, if I get the chance to come back to life, and redo things. This is one of the main things I'm gonna redo. And also, I became much more connected to my spirituality, to God, and it helped me a lot. And I'm going through my way about learning about Judaism as a little infant. I don't know anything, but I'm learning from my baby steps. And at least for now, it's like good thing for me.
It was a pleasure today to spend some time with Sasha in the show, the temple, and to put the filling on, to pray together, and it's just so inspiring to hear um, your story and how you found such purpose and meaning under such horrific circumstances. Thank you for sharing that, Sasha.
Sapir, how has each of your times in kept
So, it's to be honest, before the October 7, we had some problems in the relationship. I felt that he's very negative and he's not appreciate the life. And I felt like he had everything in his life and all the time just see the negative side. Also, we moved to live together 2 months before the October 7, and I told him that I keep kosher. And he say, okay, I can accept it, but if one day, for example, you will come to me and say that you keep Shabbat, know that it's too much for me. On October 7, I decided to keep Shabbat. Just saying, God, I will keep Shabbat, I will keep Shabbat. And okay, I will be honest that on the way to Gaza, when all the people came to beat me, I'm saying that I will be completely religious. And then I say, no, I'm not. So I was honest and stay with the Shabbat. And I remember that after maybe 10 months that I waited for him, I asked myself if I do the right thing. Like, how much time I supposed to wait? I know that my biggest dream is to get married and to have my family, to build a family. And I'm saying, God, why put me in this situation that I wait for someone that even don't believe in you? Many people came to me and asked me if I think that when Sasha will come back, he will believe in God, and I'm saying, no way. He like against it. All the time we had the argument. We didn't know how we can raise the children. Like, it's two different worldview. He believes in luck, and he say that he all the time have just bad luck, and I believe because it's supposed to be happened. But I felt very connected to him when I came back because I talked about him every day. I prayed for him every day. And I decided to wait. This is what I felt. I didn't know why. When he came back from the captivity, the first sentence that he said to his mother is, Mom, God saved my life. And I was in shock. Like, it was like to see God in front of my eyes, like a very big miracle. And then I remember that when we was in the helicopter, I wrote him a question, what the first thing that you want to do? And he said, I just want to go to a beautiful place and sit under the sky. And I say, wow, it's not Sasha that I know. And finally, he appreciated every little thing and all the time positive. And he told me, Sapir, you have to stop to be negative all the time. So what I want to say that is now I know why I waited for you all this.
one last question for you, Sasha. Um, what, on a global level or on a personal level, what do you think is necessary or needs to be done in order to reduce the rising tide of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred?
Well, I will say I'm not an expert. I will share my own opinion. And as I see it, it starts from within. It starts from within, depending, like, for example, if you are Jewish, or if you're even not Jewish, it doesn't really matter. It's good to know a little bit of history and to dig deep about what Judaism represents before you hate this kind of group. Because what Judaism represents is something that today we take for granted, and living in this 21st century in the Western world, but actually it wasn't so common not very long ago. Judaism represents care for human life. It represents being humble, being aware of your surrounding. It represents values and principles that we are taking for granted today in this Western world, but it's built a little bit upon these kind of things. And this is what I find that we people, Jews and non-Jews sometimes even, need to think a little bit about what Judaism brings and what it takes. Because I think that Judaism as a religion doesn't take anything. It just wants a person to be connected. Chabad represents it very good. It doesn't say to no Jew, don't come here. It will allow every Jew in every synagogue around the world of Chabad to go and feel very comfortable without even knowing anything. I do not know much, but I felt very comfortable being there with the rabbi and in every other synagogue that I've been there. And I think that we need to really understand what Judaism brings to the table, the importance and the heritage of the values and principles that this religion stands for. And I don't believe that somebody that will really take time to learn about it and to really deepen these thoughts around it will hate it. You can hate somebody. It's never good to hate, but you can hate somebody in person, not put it in a category of a group. And I think that as Jews, at least as I see it, we need to be much more self-confident about what we are, what we bring to the table, and every time we encounter hatred, not run away from it, confront it, explain, be patient, and I think that in the end, one by one, after a long time, there will always going to be people who are going to hate, but at least it's not going to be movements and organizations that are built on this stuff.
I said it was the last question, but I just want to follow up. Since on a broader level with regards to anti-Semitism, Jewish history, what would you say with regards to Israel? In terms of the outlook of people and the rising tide of, I guess, uneducated or perspectives that people have of um, colonialism or the other frames and terms that are used. What do you think the best way to uh, reduce that is as well?
Well, I think part of the claims are just not true or a little bit of manipulation, depending on which claim you want to stick. But colonialism is don't try to be a colonialist entity, although like any other I don't know, society. I believe that there are some people in Israel that think differently than what I say, but the general society, of course, don't want to be colonialists. Um, it's not very hard for Israel to take control, not on Gaza and not on Judea and Samaria. They have the strength, the and everything, but they're not going to do it. At least I hope not. And I think that what we are seeing right now is a movement that is indoctrinated by ideas and hollow headlines that unfortunately we're facing, but it's only concealing the hatred, the deep hatred, sometimes without any reason, towards a certain society that it's very hard to pick on. Because Jews are not very, there are not many of Jews in the world. There are maybe 15 million, something like that. In a percentage, it's nothing. And it turns out that Jews are trying to make this world progress more. They're always involved in the progress of technology, progress of economics, progress of everything. You will find there is some Jew that is taking part of it. And it's very hard to say they are to blame. Let's blame them because they are not much force to counter it. 15 million is not much. But I think that it's just, unfortunately, we're just seeing something that was dormant, it came out. And I hope that for us, it's a good way to say, it's a good thing to wake up and say, no, we cannot experience the same thing after 80, almost 80 years, like 80 years, yeah, again. And the thing that we saw in the Holocaust, we experienced it again, and we cannot see it again. We are moved past it. We saw what it can bring if we're not stopping it. And if we're not going to stop it now, I'm not a prophet, but I hope that it will not bring something even closer to that. And I'm really afraid that it's growing and growing. And I think it's our mission to stop it before it grows to a dimension that it will not be able to stop without the war.
Sapir, your last question. What message do you have for all of us here today?
I remember that when I came back to Israel, sometimes I just go to my room and lock the door and I cry because I didn't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I asked myself in what I believe. And the only word that came to my mind is unity. I believe that it's not supposed to be a war between Israel to Gaza. It's supposed to be a war between all the world against the terrorist organizations. I decided to go and talk in many communities in Israel and in many places in the world. And I didn't really know to explain what the meaning of unity. One day I had a dream at night, and in the dream I was in the gym. I trained there. I had a bag on my back and I just made squats. And then one of the trainers came to me and he wanted the bag, but he couldn't lift it up. So we called to the other trainers, but nobody could take my bag. So he asked me, what do I do in this bag? It's so heavy. How you can carry that? And I'm saying that this bag full of my all my lifetime experiences, so just I can carry them. And when I woke up and I thought about this dream, I realized that every one of us has his own bag and we cannot switch the bags, but we can help each other to carry. And all this time, like 1 year and a half that I waited for it, me and his mother, I met a lot of Jewish people and non-Jews that just helped me all the time. And when people ask me, Sapir, how you have this energy and how you can continue with a smile, the answer is that all these people help us to carry our big bag. And this is my message, just to continue.
Um, I would like to take a moment to say a prayer. And I think it would be apropos to say prayer from Psalm chapter 27 that Sapir was talking about earlier. Everyone should have on their seats as well. And following, we're going to take copies.
I would say it in Hebrew.
Let's say it in Hebrew, and then afterwards, we are going to ask from the Hebrew congregation. Rabbi mentioned Chabad earlier. We have a beautiful historical synagogue, which is extremely welcoming. And of course, Julia is extremely welcoming, and everybody else. We're going to ask Julia to say the psalm in English following Sapir.
לדוד, אדוני אורי ואישי ממי ירם, אדוני מעוז חיי ממי אפחד. בקרוב עלי נראים לאכול את בשרי, צרי ואויבי לי ים הכשלו ונפלו. אם תחנה עלי מחנה לא אירע ליבי, אם תקום עלי מלחמה בזאת אני בוטח. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש, שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחדול בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. כי יצפנה לי בסוכו ביום רע, יסתירה לי בסתר אוהלו, בצור ירום ממני. ועתה ירום ראשי על אויבי סביבותי, שמע קולי אקרא וחנני וענני, לך אמר לי תיש, אל תסתר פניך ממני, אל תפתח עבדך עזרתי הייתה. אל תקשני ואל תעזבני אלוהי אישי, כי אבי ואמי עזבוני ואדוני יאספני. הורני אדוני דרכך ונחתני באורך משור למען שוררי, אל תתנני בנפש צרי, קמו בידי שקל וביפי החמאס. לולא האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קבל אדוני חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקבל אדוני. All the time people test me if I really remember.
Will you please join me in English on the left side of the booklet? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Who shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers approach me to devour my flesh, my oppressors and my foes, they stumble and fall. If an army were to deliver me, my heart would not fear. If war were to rise against me, in this I trust one thing. I have asked of the Lord, necessity, that I may dwell with the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the blessedness of the Lord, and to visit his sanctuary. For he will hide me in his tabernacle on the day of adversity. He will conceal me in the hidden places of his heavens. He will lift me up on the rock, and then my head will be raised above my enemies around me. And I will offer sacrifices of condemnation. I will sing and chant to the Lord. Lord, hear my voice as I call. Be gracious to me and answer me. In your behalf, my heart says, seek my countenance. Your countenance, Lord, I seek. Do not conceal your countenance from me. Do not cast aside your servant not. You have been my help. Do not abandon me, nor forsake me. God of my deliverance. Though my father and mother have forsaken me, the Lord has taken me. Lord, teach me your way, and lead me in the path of righteousness, because of my watchful enemies. Do not give me over the will of my princes, for they have risen against me false witnesses, and they speak evil. They would have crushed me had I not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Hope in the Lord, be strong, and let your heart be firm, and hope in the Lord.